Hi, I'm a higher ed social media manager and I have a confession. I've never viewed higher ed social media teams quite like Joe Teo, who is the chief executive Orca at HeyOrca, and I love his fresh perspective. Welcome to Confessions of a Higher Ed Social Media Manager. I'm Jenny Li Fowler, award-winning social media professional, author, and podcast host, and a recognized voice across the social media marketing industry. Social media managers are navigating the wild, ever-changing world of higher ed communications, and I'm here to share the real stories and lessons behind the posts. Each episode explores the challenges, strategies, and untold moments that come with running social media accounts in today's digital landscape. Let's get into it. Joe, welcome. I'm so glad you could make it onto the podcast.
Yeah, thanks for having me. Looking forward to this one since the last time we chatted.
Yeah, me too. So I actually realized that you are the chief executive Orca at HeyOrca, and I would really love to know why the orca, like the sea mammal orca, right?
Okay, I'll give you the short story.
Okay.
But maybe I'll expand a little bit more. But
Please.
the short story of it is because we're based in Newfoundland. So we're 100% remote as a company, but we're based in the island of Newfoundland off the coast of North America.
Yes.
And orcas are found off the coast of Newfoundland. And we wanted something that paid homage to where our roots are. But the love story is that we wanted something that's we're a social media company. So we wanted something that is social. We were very inspired, and I'm dating myself here. Remember MailChimp?
Yes.
It used to be the really cool company. I mean, it's still cool, but back in 2015, everybody was using MailChimp, right? And so we were kind of inspired by them when they're like, wow, they have this logo, super fun. I don't even know, the chin probably has a name, but we were very inspired by these animals kind of mascot. And so we actually again, talking about community, we actually went to our local cafe and we just asked people what kind of names they would choose. So we actually on one side put how we say hi, hey, hello, hi. And then on the other side, we just Googled the most sociable creatures in this world. We get animals did you know that pigs are very sociable? I had no idea.
I did
but anyways,
not.
Pig was one of the names.
Yeah.
We were okay, let's be data driven.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
pigs, orcas was one of them, chimp, and all these things. And so then we just did a combination, just in true sort of developer fashion. We just permutate all the different names.
And you just crowdsourced. You went somewhere and said,
and then after that we went to the cafe and we said we're gonna buy you a coffee. Just tell us which name you like.
Yeah.
And nobody liked Hey Pig.
I was gonna say, when you say "Hey Pig," it's a totally different kind of connotation,
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And raccoon was one of them.
Oh no.
Hello Raccoon. And then I actually have a screenshot of it's a Google Note that I have. So I went through the list, and then HeyOrca was 10 out of 10. Everyone chose it.
It's
there was
so
not.
good. Yeah.
There was not another name that anyone chose. HeyOrca was the name that everyone chose, and it was perfect because orcas are found off the coast of Newfoundland, and we found out that the Instagram handle was available.
Oh, smart! Yeah.
HeyOrca.com was available, and just an Easter egg: if you go into your browser and you type heyor.ca, and it spells HeyOrca, it takes you to our website as well.
Oh, I love that. And these creatures, the orcas are very social creatures, right? They talk to each other a lot, as I understand.
Yeah, exactly. Right? So then that's we just lean into this whole thing.
I
so
love that.
Pod.
Yeah.
We just call each other instead of team, we say pod. Instead of all hands, our all hands meeting, we call it
all fins.
All fins.
I love it. I love it. Okay.
Yeah.
That
So
is
we just
cute.
play, it just became our own culture now. Everything's
right.
very orca theme, very ocean pun. So I'm like an expert in ocean puns because of all this training.
Because it's part of your culture now. Oh, that's really cute. Yeah,
Yeah,
I
exactly.
love that. I love that. Well, thank you for sharing that story. What we wanted to talk about today was, I found this really interesting, Joe. You believe that there is a lot that higher ed, Marcom in general is getting right. I mean, I think we feel like, oh my gosh, like, I think there are a lot of us that don't feel that way. So can you kind of tell us like why you feel that way?
Yeah, I think there are a couple things. So number one, I've always admired how well higher education marketers just respond to things on the fly, because there's so many things that changes, like from crisis comms all the way to like change your plans in terms of like student events and things like that. And like talk about like having to adapt, like higher education professionals like has to adapt on a daily basis. I know like social media managers, like when we're sort of talking about social, we're always saying like, well, we have to adapt. But when you talk about like social plus higher ed and all these things, that you're kind of like operating in your own ecosystem, right? Like you have this like macro ecosystem, which is called the world that you live in. And then you have your university ecosystem. It forces you to adapt so fast. And I find like higher education marketers as well, you are at the epicenter of culture, because a lot of the culture shapers are young people. And so marketers that generally run these teams are like, more mature, they're more strategic, but at the same time, they also interact with people that are at the forefront of culture. And I find like I've learned a lot seeing the blend of like strategic and like how do you harness like, and a lot of times like you're strapped for budget too, so you have to rely on like student volunteers. And UGC content is like part and parcel of just a good higher ed strategy. And you find like the universities that understands that versus the universities that don't, like their following is just like different. And I just find that higher education like is like a really good training ground, I would say, as well. And like, like there's so much to learn, and people don't like we talked about this last weekend. People don't naturally think, oh, I got to talk to a higher ed professional about this. Like generally, like people think like, oh, I got to talk to this like, big brand, like the social media manager of Sephora or like Kylie, like cosmetics. But like really, if you want to talk about Swiss Army knife, you want to talk about like people that can adapt and people that actually have to go with the times. I find like higher education is like very underrated. And if you have higher ed marketer friends, you can learn a lot from them, because they have to deal with a lot and you have to adapt. And I find that shortens the timeline to the learning from like a couple of years to like really like months.
I love that perspective, that, and it's true, like higher ed communicators have to be scrappy and they are constantly adjusting.
And you have to hop through like red tapes as well. Like talk about bureaucracy.
So much bureaucracy.
So how do you be creative while working within the bureaucracy? And I just see like all these accounts that you would never think that the amount of like stuff, like politics that have to go through to like actually get that approved. And you have to like politically be astute as well. And so that's why I think like you want a marketer that's like politically savvy, that actually knows strategy, that can operate at the forefront of culture and adaptable.
And can
I think like if you go through higher ed, like I think like higher education, and maybe that contributes to like the some of the burnout epidemic that we're seeing. But like I'm just saying that, when you look at people in higher ed, they sort of had the intersection, like in a sense, like all of us outside higher ed, we operate in like a macro environment. Higher education is like that's the constant reality in a more of a subset like reality, right?
No, you make great points, actually, Joe. Like I said, I love that perspective. And so you've mentioned that you get a lot of inspiration specifically from like athletic departments. Yeah. Can you give us examples?
Yeah. So like my first time that like really opened up my eyes to like, wow, okay, can learn a lot. You can learn a lot from higher ed.
You were like, okay, go higher ed, right?
Yeah, exactly. So it's actually the Hawkeyes from Iowa.
Oh.
They became a HeyOrca customer. And then I started talking to the social media manager back then. she came onto a webinar and she was talking about like how she filmed, and so she was like telling like our community about the gears that she was using, how she planned the B-rolls and everything. I was like, that's crazy. Like I didn't notice so much that goes into it, how she manages the athletes and get them involved in like talking to the camera, how she actually like activate the student, and how she needs to scout the stadium before the players take the field and all these things. It just like made me aware about so many. So she was like people in the higher ed, like athletics department were creators before creators were a thing, right? Because you got to think like a creator in that way.
Oh.
And so this was like maybe 2018, if I want to date myself. So this was like before TikTok and stuff. And so then it made me... it made me like, okay, let's take a look. And then I start taking a look at especially like the college kind of life in the States. So I'm based in Canada, and I was able to athletics. You guys, like, athletics is such a big thing for you guys, right? And I just like started like binging, and I'm like, wow, this is like really good. And then you peel back the curtain, and I realized that they're actually functioning this off a very small team. Extreme reliance on volunteers and like students that wouldn't be part of the story. And so they have to manage so many variables, and gave me like a newfound like appreciation for the higher educational like marketers. I'm talking about higher education marketer on the social medias. I'm not talking about like marcoms that are just sending emails. I'm talking about the ones that have to adapt.
The creators and the social media content.
Exactly. And then if you're in higher ed, you should definitely join. Are you part of this group, the higher ed social group?
Yes. I mean, there's a Facebook group. I mean,
the Facebook group.
Yes, I am.
So generally the Facebook group, they're so supportive too, because they're like, I get you, higher ed.
Yes,
you know, like there's this like, I don't want to say cult, but there's this camaraderie.
It is.
There's this camaraderie, because we're higher ed social, and we get problems that other people don't really understand.
That's exactly right. And, and we have to deal with limited resources and a lot of hurdles, and we get each other. And so it is a very, very supportive community.
Yeah, it's like very supportive. I'm like, wow, they show up for each other so well, and like that's amazing.
So I love that. It's not just the content that appears on your thread or timeline. You're really inspired by like the behind the scenes work that goes into it, and how professional and how thorough the creators are.
At the same time, in the bureaucracy, so they also like taught me, I guess like the ones that do it really well, they taught me that just because there's red tape in the environment that you live in doesn't mean you throw up your hands and say, I can't work anymore. Like, because you're blocking me.
You have
I think like you take a page.
How,
exactly.
Right? Yeah.
And I think in your book as well, so just a plug for Jenny's
thank you. You're too kind. You're too kind.
In your book as well, you talk about like how to deal with people, because like part of it, sometimes we just talk about like metrics and all these things. But the other part that's so important is like, I don't use the word politics, but
the conversations.
How do you navigate? Yeah, that's why I love your book, because not only are you giving practical tips around like, okay, this is how you want to think about like the frameworks around the problem, but don't forget relationship is such a big thing. And when you think about these higher ed social accounts, these athletic departments, they're doing volleyball, they're managing the volleyball.
Oh yeah, they're doing everything.
Team, they're doing this. Like all these content that's like coming up, there was a person behind it that had to go through establishing these relationships with the overall Marcom. You know how Marcom departments can be very like sticky about certain things. Like we don't say this, you're not following our color palette, yada yada. Needs to be there's somebody that actually built that relationship with the head of Marcom.
That's so right.
That provides that trust. And so like they inspire me in a sense that just because red tape exists everywhere, because there's red tape, I think like the easy thing is like, see, nobody understands me, and I throw up your hand and say, this is a toxic environment, yada yada.
Right.
But I think you can learn from like other people that like through this environment, they are still able to create content they are proud of, and still be able to build that relationship with the department.
You can.
So again, like maybe I'm generalizing, but I do think that the spirit, I think everyone's like situation is like different, but the spirit of what I'm trying to say is that through difficulties and roadblocks, there can be a way like forward.
You're right. Now that I'm sitting here listening to you, I think higher ed social teams and social managers they're sort of like, they're like, let's make this no into a yes. Like, how can we make this into a yes?
Yeah,
How
yeah,
can we make
exactly.
this possible? And I think I didn't think about that, but you are 100% right. And you've also said that higher ed is okay, handling crisis better than other brands. And I'm, well, like we've had a lot of practice lately, but a lot of times I feel like we're just building the plane as we're flying it. So it's just hard to assess whether, and a lot of times I think we feel like we could have always done a better job. So hearing this from someone in industry is very encouraging, but also I'm very curious, why do you say that?
I think generally, like most brands, like including HeyOrca, like crisis is like the last thing that we think about. We always think about how do we be creative? How do we actually like go viral? How do we get
Right,
attention? Yeah.
right. Yeah.
But I think with higher ed, because of the environment, the political situation, the environment that you guys are working in, the risks that you guys are like sort of like managing in terms of communication, it's a holistic way of thinking about marketing. Not just like how we've just recruited the most creative person. We're also thinking about like you guys are also thinking about okay, if this happens, so it's just a preparedness and readiness. It's always something that is back of the mind, and there's
Yes.
always a plan already. Like maybe the plan could be better, but there's always a preparedness plan around like, if this incident happens, if an active shooter happens, whatever it happens, we have a plan in place because of the environment that we have to deal with these things. Like if something like this scenario happens, like this is going to do. So I think like you can just look at how higher education accounts deal when these moments arise. And they have to balance between like, how do I put out communication, timely communication that provides a sense of like, calm, a sense of like assuredness at the same time, also the right information and also in a very fluid, evolving situation. So I think like when you talk about boot camp, you talk about marketing boot camp, higher education, like it's a very holistic way to think about like your skill set, like how to be successful. I think like you do need to in higher ed. I do think like you need to be more holistic than let's say someone that's like operating on the B2C side, where it's all about like how do we go viral. You have to like talk about the unsexy part, which is like, what if this happens? What if that happens? And how do we do this in a social way?
I mean, I think we're forced. I don't know that we always want to, Joe, but
Yeah, exactly.
I think we're forced to, and
Yeah.
and you want to do it well. So, are there any like recent examples that maybe come to mind of like,
Yeah, I was thinking about this one, but I don't have like a particular example, but more so like when you look at some of the major universities, like you can look at incidents and like how these universities respond. They always respond with like it's very timely. They respond like acknowledging, the situation, how the students, because the students are the main community, and then the way they sort of like take the crisis from like the beginning of crisis, the development of crisis to the end, and then the aftercare. So how do you show up like during that period of like, when people are like trying to go back to normal? What is our stance? How's our policy? And then also understanding that doesn't mean like we can't go back to normal programming, but there's a way to do it. That I've been, when you look at these examples, like they're really good at sort of navigating those situations.
so you're finding that there definitely seems to be a repetition among those institutions and universities that are doing it well.
Yeah, exactly.
And they seem to state those things, and it seems to be
Yeah,
working.
acknowledgement.
Okay.
Also, like so it's putting out statement, right information,
Yeah.
developing situation,
How
and then the post incident clarity, and then going back up. And I also think that the university, again, like going back to higher ed social, the Facebook group, every time an incident happens, people are helping each other in terms of how they navigate certain things. So like when Black Lives Matter was like a big thing, like how do you approach these things? And people are like, again, like as a public facing institution, an account, the bar is so much higher in terms of like what you put out
Yeah.
versus like your small business accounts, like you're representing like that community, and the bar is so much higher with also diverse opinions. So I empathize with the social media manager, because like it's not like you can be like, okay, this is our stance and we're gonna go hard on this, and if we're gonna upset some feathers, like we're gonna that's okay, that's us, right? We're gonna be unapologetically this. But like as a higher ed professional, you have to straddle that line around like how do we like put out a statement that also like remains true to our values, but in a way that also like builds community and not like provides division. I'm not an expert at that, but when I look at those accounts, like the things that they have to navigate, just like, again, like inspires me. And that's why I say like higher ed marketers are actually super underrated. Not enough people are talking about like what they can learn from them.
I guess I should also, say that you're not a casual observer of higher ed, managers. You're invested.
Yes.
And because you work with a lot of higher ed managers, and can you talk about that a little bit, so our audience knows like this is not Joe from the street.
Not your average Joe.
No, not your average Joe. Joe's who is very invested in higher ed creation, like content creation and voice and
so
tone.
like like my first exposure, like I said, was the athletics department, so I keep tabs on that. Then that's where I stumbled upon the higher ed social group, and then like really got to know like how people actually approach things. But had the pleasure of like really collaborating with Johns Hopkins. They're one of our customers in terms of how they handle like public policies, how they put out statements, and then the athletic department of like Texas Tech, and all the other universities, like really understanding like the different ways and the different way that you can show up depending. So within the university as well, it's not because you're one university you have to show up the same. Like different departments can have their own brand and tone.
Oh, it's so true.
And then I'm able to see like how they actually evolve from there. And then I think the biggest window for me to like how higher education, social media managers like or marketers show up is the Facebook group, because people are so supportive. And that's why whenever I meet as a higher ed professional, I say, you got to join that Facebook group, because like people, it's already like a community that people talk about. But they really support one another, and there are topics that only that you're going to put that in like maybe a generic like social media group. You're not going to get as much as in the higher ed side, and I learned so much from them.
It's true. That's amazing. So you're actually taking what you learn sort of from the higher ed community and the higher ed communications and applying it to other industries.
Yeah, exactly.
That's fascinating to me.
So that actually inspired,
great.
It actually inspired a lot of things in HeyOrca, like subconsciously, right? These things, like how you meet like people, and over time you're doing certain things, and you're like, hey, actually, like that person inspired me to do this. So same thing with higher ed. Seeing the Facebook group, like I was like, wow, this is really cool. Like, what if HeyOrca had a Facebook group? And so now, HeyOrca, if you search HeyOrca community, we have a Facebook group of, I want to say 15,000 people.
What?
Like in a Facebook group, because I was very inspired with like, wow, all these people are showing up for each other. How do we create like, and then what makes it so healthy? And what makes it so healthy was Andrea, the moderator. She was really cool. Like she was really, really cool to like show me the ropes as well. And like being able to see that, moderation is so important in terms of building the initial culture. And then once they reach a certain critical level, everyone kind of knows what's acceptable or not. And same thing that inspired like us to build our community. And we wanted a community that's supportive for social media managers. And in a lot of ways, you could say like higher ed social and the group like really provide us the first blueprint, and then thinking about like how to approach our social media accounts. We learned a lot from the public sector and the higher ed community as well, to be able to build out our framework in terms of how do we involve our team. So you think about like higher ed, you're involving athletes and students. And if you go to our Instagram account right now in HeyOrca, you're not seeing one face, you're seeing multiple faces. And that's something that we say we want to replicate, which is how do we actually involve internal UGC content into our content? So learn a lot from like how higher ed, you make it fun, you make it rewarding for people to participate. And then the same thing for HeyOrca as well. Like students will participate if they see that they're having fun creating content, they see the fruits of their labor, they want to do more. Same thing for our internal employees. I'll just say John. John is his name. John, sorry about this, but he was a hater of TikTok. And he's like, I would never be on TikTok, on a TikTok video. And now he's in like a couple like TikTok videos. Like he's actually volunteering like to like film some footage.
And he's good.
Yeah, exactly. And he's like enjoying it because again, like, we involve people like, and then more people join and other people want to do that. But if you trace its roots, a lot of it was inspired by, again, like how social media managers actually, rally social media other students, because these students are not getting paid to do these things for the most part. It's like volunteer positions, or at most they're being paid with pizza. So like you gotta make it fun, right? So same thing with HeyOrca. That's not part of your job description. So we have to like create a way that, for them to participate easily and make it fun for them to come back again.
Okay, that's amazing. But so why does HeyOrca need a Facebook page? Can I ask you?
A Facebook group.
Or like a group. Why does it need a group?
Oh, because like...
What happens in that group?
So the way we think about marketing is like very community-based. So we think about like social is how you get attention, and then closed groups is how you keep the attention. So we think about social media in terms of our Instagram, our TikTok, as the way we attract attention, but we funnel them into a private group, because when it's private, people show up more authentically. People choose to post like anonymous questions.
100%.
And Zuckerberg is like showing you more groups as well when you're part of it. And so like for us, at first it was like inspired by like, how do we get on the Facebook algorithm right now, like where Facebook pages are essentially dead. And then we realized that Facebook group could be the answer. And then when we looked at the higher ed group and then other groups, we were like, they're doing a really good job here. And not only are you more visible, you're creating a sense of feeling about your brand. And so that's why we started building this. And that's what we tell every marketer, like, yes, social media is great to get attention, but you always need to answer the second question. And the second question is, what are you going to do with the attention? Yeah, exactly. So Facebook group is one. Obviously, other people use Substacks or like newsletters. Like that's another viable one. But you just need to make sure that you answer the second question, which is, what do I do with this attention now?
Yeah, no, I know this might come as a surprise to some people, but Facebook groups are alive and well, and I would say thriving, right? They're not going
100%.
anywhere.
So right now there's like I told Jenny that there's like a wildfire happening 20 minutes from where I live. And the way I stay posted is the Facebook group, right, of my neighborhood. We don't have, I think maybe in the States you guys have neighborhood, like maybe an app.
Yeah, we do. I don't love it. I haven't
used it because it's not a thing in Canada yet.
Yeah, I think that the Facebook groups are more effective. And can I just add, because since you brought it up, is it a controlled wildfire, or is it a wildfire?
Yeah, it's a wildfire. It's contained, but it's like kind of growing, but they're like containing. The good thing is like between me and the wildfire, there's like a pond, like a lake that's separating us. So that acts as a little bit of a buffer zone. But we'll see, like fingers crossed. Okay. And we'll see how it goes.
Okay, now we're going to definitely have to follow up and make sure Joe is okay.
Part 2, yeah.
when this post. So I really hope that there is no danger coming your way.
I think it looks like pretty okay. Like I'm not seeing like too much smoke so far.
Okay, you're making me nervous. I'm not gonna make you stay on too much longer. But I do have one more question for you before I let you go, and that's Joe. What is your confession?
My confession is that my favorite social media channel is Facebook.
Yay! which actually
good to just
now
say
we know why.
It just feels good.
Do people look at you funny?
Yeah, I mean, like my social media team, they're all like Gen Zs and like Instagram stands and TikTok stands. For me,
Mm-hmm.
Facebook, and not just groups, right? Like Facebook newsfeed for me, that's where my family is, right? It's where people that I really know are. Instagram is more like my public side of things. I should do more with my Instagram page, but like I find with Facebook, that's my authentic like circle of community.
Well, it sounds like that's where your people
Exactly.
are.
Yeah.
You know, you go where your
Yeah.
people are. I'm telling you, I know I said this earlier, Facebook is not going
No,
anywhere. Yeah, I think it is really here to stay.
exactly.
Well, Joe, thank you for your insights. And I learned so much from your perspective. This was really great. Thank you so much for your
Yeah. Thanks
time.
for having me. And yeah, I really enjoy like, again, like your book.
Oh, you're too kind.
Well,
Thank
honestly,
you.
I'm not
Yeah.
saying this just because I'm on Jenny's podcast, but like, I actually, you know what? I found your book through the higher ed social group. So someone
Oh,
posted saying like, anyone
that's
got this book? This
awesome.
was like last year. Did you release your book last year? Maybe.
Yes, yeah.
So someone
In
posted
December.
saying
Yep.
like, has anyone read this? Like, yeah. And then a couple comments like saying like it was really, really good. So I was like, oh, it's really interesting. And also like the angle that you took is like how to build like flourishing online communities, which is like
Yes.
my thing. Like, okay, how do we think about like online communities? And that's why I bought your book. I had no idea who you were at that time. Like I just like bought your book. And
I
then,
love that.
the magic of internet, like realized that, oh, you're actually connected to Christina, which is how we got connected. Yeah, overall, like I said, I already said like what I enjoyed about the book, but like it's very holistic, just like a higher ed marketer. It's
Oh,
very
yeah.
very holistic, not just like on the creative side, not only on the analytical side, but also like work relationship advice around like
Navigating
exactly. I
those
thought that was such a good
relationships.
take because
Yeah.
like actually we don't talk about it at all, right? Like we just complain about it, like we just complain about our leaders and
Yeah.
how toxic the
Yeah.
environment is. But I really like how you're giving a very balanced view where leaders, this is what you need to know. Social media managers, this is what you need to know about what your leaders are stressing about. This is how you actually like build a case for it. 100% recommend, or if you haven't
No,
picked it
you're
up.
so kind. Yeah, listeners, I promise you, Joe is not on my payroll.
No.
It's been a pleasure. Thanks for listening to Confessions of a Higher Ed Social Media Manager. This show is a proud member of the Enrollify network, home to Higher Ed's largest collection of podcasts. Enrollify is where higher ed goes to grow, so be sure to check out our other podcasts, webinars, video clips, blogs, and more. Visit Enrollify.org and subscribe for all the latest details and content drops directly to your inbox. Enrollify is brought to you by Element 451, the digital workforce platform for higher ed. Learn more at element451.com.